Okay.
Okay. All right. So, hi, whoever ends up watching this, I'm going to post this on the Ruthless Church Facebook group, and I'm also going to post this on YouTube, and I'm also going to post this on my wall on Facebook. And I said to a few people recently that I was going to talk to someone who I knew had come up with an idea for universal basic income that I thought was really a great idea. And I've seen a lot of conversation about it recently because of the stimulus package that the United States is trying to bring about in response to COVID-19, and also because of Andrew Yang's whole campaign, which he talked about universal basic income, $1,000 in the pocket of every adult American. And when I heard about Andrew Yang's proposal, I'd already known about Scott Smith, who is with us today, about his proposal, which I think not only is twice that for people, I believe, under 70 and 3,000 for people over 70, but it also is operating from a completely different economic paradigm. So I'm going to let Scott say hello and then introduce his idea for universal basic income, and then we'll just get into a little bit more of a conversation about it. So, hey, Scott, I'm looking forward to you sharing this with people. So, what is your idea for basic universal basic income, and how we can bring that about?
Okay. The key thing for me in making any sort of economic proposal is making sure that it's financially sound. And if I only see universal basic income as a part of my proposal if indeed we switched away from an income tax-based system over to what I call a payments tax system, okay? And so to really illustrate how I feel about that, if we were using the tax system that we currently have and somebody was proposing, say, a value added tax, which is kind of what Andrew Yang was proposing as a way to do basic income, I'd say, I really don't think I support that, because what's happening is you're taking income out of the flow into GDP and you're taking it from one person and giving it another. So the way a payments tax works is really key. A payments tax is not in addition to income tax. It's not in addition to payroll taxes or even corporate taxes. It's in place of those taxes. So it really is one of the biggest tax breaks that somebody's proposed. And what you're doing, instead of taxing income, is you're taxing every payment that occurs within the economy. Why that's so powerful is this. Our income totals 16 trillion a year. Everybody's income in this country totals 16 trillion a year. Already with spending, before there's basic income, already with the current level of spending at state and federal governments, the spending is 5 trillion. So we're taking 5 trillion out of people's hard-won 16 trillion. Taxes are pretty high. If we switch to a payments tax, you're taxing the $5,000 trillion in payments each year. Well, that's over 300 times our income. And at 0.2%, you have enough to cover the 5,000 trillion in spending, plus you have another 5,000 trillion that you've collected. Out of that, you can pay $24,000 a year in basic income for all adults, and then it goes to $30,000 a year when you're 70 and above. And you're not taking that out of other people's income. And so whether you're wealthy or poor, this is an additional amount of money that you're getting. And it's this additional money going into the pockets of the consumer, and that supercharges the economy. And that is the beauty of a payments tax, because when that economy booms, the volume of payments will go from 5,000 trillion upwards to 6 or 7,000 trillion. And so you have this synergistic type of a thing that works. When you do it this way, that works. Under that basis, I'm all for 24,000 a year, and that's higher basic income than other people are proposing.
Right. Yeah. So look, just to break it down for some people who may say, well, what does that mean by a payment tax? Well, a lot of us are using things like Zelle, Cash App, and lots of other things that we make electronic payments and we transfer money from person to person electronically. And every time we do that, what Scott's proposing is a tax that goes with that ends up being able to build this giant, I guess, reservoir of income, of money. So as you said, what's the percentage that you were talking about?
0.2%. So in other words, let's go to your example. Let's say you sent some friend $1,000. They would receive $998 because $2 out of 1,000 just automatically comes out. You're not filing any tax returns any. So think of it this way. Let's pick a guy who's doing pretty well, earning 100,000 a year. Okay, right now with sales taxes, payroll taxes, income taxes. If he owns a house, property taxes. He's paying between $45,000 and $55,000 a year in taxes a day. A guy earning 100 grand, 45 to 50,000. With a payments tax, 0.2% of 100,000 is $200. So it's a huge drop in taxes for him. Goes from say 50,000 down to $200. The secret behind the payments tax is that you might almost call it a hidden economy. That $5,000 trillion in payments, that's primarily composed of sale of mortgage-backed securities, treasuries, commodities, all these sorts of things that aren't even on the New York Stock Exchange. The New York Stock Exchange is only 1% of the 5,000 trillion in payments. I mean, what's so ironic about a payments tax is you could literally exempt people's personal income. You could exempt the New York Stock Exchange, and you haven't even put a dent in the volume of payments out there. So that's the untapped reservoir that we can get basic income out of.
Right. So basically, you're saying that even if we could stop paying income taxes and just pay these payment taxes, and then we would still have so much money in that income tax. What we normally get from income tax is just like a drop in the bucket. So like, say, for example, using this like gigantic tube of chapstick, but let's say that this is what we get from income taxes right now. And then this, or maybe even something bigger, is what we get from payment taxes.
Yes.
Right. But every time we try to draw this money for services and all those other things, we're pulling it out of this tax bracket, this amount of taxes. But if we were working from the payment tax, we would have this much resources relatively speaking to draw from.
So that little chapstick thing, you're going to have to take a third of that to provide what we pay today. Okay, and if you're going to try to go add into basic income and free healthcare and all that, it's going to be 2/3 of that. 2/3 of our income. But if you draw from that other big thing, that's only 0.2%. It's like a drop out of that. And so that's how this works.
See, that's amazing. And I mean, the more that we use these kinds of funds transfer services, and it's not just like when we do it as people, but when organizations do massive transfers of funds, there's that tax off of that. And if we do, I'm assuming like I pay my mortgage, I pay that electronically. So would it be something like that too? Where that
you wouldn't pay your mortgage under this. I mean, your mortgage. I'm sorry. I was thinking your property taxes. Yeah, you'd still have to pay your mortgage. But you're right. When that money goes into the to the recipient of that, then 0.2% comes out of there. But the bank that owns your mortgage, they're not paying corporate taxes anymore.
Yeah. See, that's amazing. And there's so many of us. I had my HOA just sent out coupon booklets for us to pay our HOA, and normally it's just an automatic payment thing. And I was just like, what? I'm having like write on a piece of paper and stick a stamp on that? I don't want to do that. I haven't done that in years. All my stuff is automatically transferred. So a lot of us are already participating in this like hidden economy that you're talking about. It's just not being taxed in the way that you're talking about. And with that 0.2% you were saying, right? That 20 cents per thousand, or $2 per thousand, or 20 cents per thousand.
It's $2 per thousand. It's
Okay,
20.
so $2 per thousand, and this is amazing. And like just thinking about all the generation that we're already doing to switch over to this different source, and it probably be larger. I use this, and this is the analogy, but it probably be even bigger than this. I just don't happen to have another container next to me.
It's kind of a good example is a pea and a basketball.
Yeah, a pea versus a basketball.
If our income was the size of a pea, then the payments are equal to about a basketball.
See, so I mean that's amazing. So if you haven't thought about this, I'm gonna end up putting out the link for it. Is it financialfreedomact.com?
It is.
Financial.
It is. You have to. It's thefinancialfreedomact.com.
Okay. So if you go to thefinancialfreedomact.com.
Yeah. If you go there, you can actually see a list of what all those payments are. This is not, it's not hidden or anything. This is publicly available data. It's gathered by the Federal Reserve, and it's published. It's actually published by what's called the Bank for International Settlements, because they publish that data for every country in the world. The United States is in the best position of any country to do a payments tax because we have the highest volume of those payments versus the amount of government spending we would need to do something like this. We have a very robust financial economy. And it's, also to really understand this, because like a lot of times I'll present this and somebody says, no, it's going to catch up to me. I know it's going to catch up. There's all these payments out there. It's going to catch up to me. And for most people, it's not, because it's like when you're paying your mortgage in the example, you're not paying a tax there. The recipient always receives it. So if you look at the total money you receive, whether it's a gift, it doesn't, like a gift, you're paying taxes on it. But in income, you're paying taxes. If you sell, if you sell your house, you're going to pay 0.2%, even if it was a loss when you sold your house. Whatever you receive, it's 0.2%. But the money that is paid between warm-blooded humans is very low, very little. Most is in this sort of very high-level institutional money that flows. So when a private equity fund takes in $10 billion for investing in other things, they don't pay any taxes on that. That's money invested in there. But under that situation, 0.2%, that would come right off the top. And and that's where the bulk of the money is. We have this, that's why I call it a hidden economy, because like when you're buying tickets to the theater or you're paying your mortgage, or all of that goes into GDP right now. All of that is in GDP. So that's around $20 trillion. The reason GDP at 20 trillion is a little more than income at 16 is we borrow some of the money that we spend, and so, but almost everything you've described is part of GDP. And so this other part is it's almost like a monopoly game that goes on in the background. And as people trade all these securities, they make a little money off of it, and that's their income. So you kind of tax the game, and you're not taxing their income anymore. So then, of course, people say, well, it sounds too good to be true. Look, if you're taking my taxes down to 0.2%, and I'm getting basic income, and oh, by the way, you could get free healthcare and free college under this program. I mean, where's the catch? Like, who's paying this that isn't paying it right now? And is the ultra wealthy that own these enormous assets that are being traded in exchange. So one of the first rules of business is, like, you're going to propose something like this, like I'm doing, you need to go and talk to them. And you need to find out, what did they say? Because obviously people who have that amount of money also have a lot of political power. And is this an idea that can be shot out of the sky as soon as it gets out in the Wall Street Journal? So I've had discussions with those people, and they're supportive of it. And they're supportive of it for one very simple reason. The value of the assets that they're trading back and forth would actually increase because the economy would be so robust that they'd end up getting wealthier. So it works. It works for everyone.
It works even if a person's like super greedy. No offense to greedy people, but I'm saying if that's their mode, they just want to make more money, make more money, make more money. But what they're also doing is they're generating more taxes off that small percentage per thousand, that $2 per thousand, and they get to continue to play that game. But it's like if you have like a huge gear and it's turning and it turns down to the smaller gears. If they're making these massive transfers and the money's coming to people, they get this extra $24,000 a year. They're going to actually contribute to the economy that much more, doing other things. And then with the free healthcare and the free college, people will do things that they actually love, get more enjoyment out of the things that they're doing. They can take some kind of risk because they're not worried about losing their healthcare, which then enables them to participate in the economy even more.
That's right. And that's the whole idea behind this. It's got to be win-win all the way across the board. And if you think of the difference it would make if you had a payments tax, first of all, you're eliminating the need for a welfare system.
Mm-hmm.
You're also eliminating the need for social security system anymore, because that $30,000 a year that you get when you're 70, you don't have to keep track of all the payments everybody made all their lives and see where it goes. You're eliminating a lot of overhead within the government. You have this simple sort of thing that makes it more efficient. And as you boom that, as you have all these people spending this additional money, for large corporations like Apple, for corporations that are selling to consumers, their stock goes up higher because their biggest problem is finding enough people to buy all their products. That's kind of the dirty secret behind the economy is businesses starve for customers. And that was why I worked on this cycle. There's got to be a way to actually supercharge this whole thing that everybody benefits.
See, that's amazing. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people are probably going to say something like, there's people out there who could benefit from, this is like just a random discussion, but there's people who could benefit from this $24,000. But in their minds, some of them are thinking, well, I feel like it's unfair to people to get money that they didn't work for. I worked all my life, blah, blah, blah. Now these people are going to get, I've worked more than them. I deserve more than them. How do we deal with the people who, if the people who are making money already, they buy into it because they're like, hey, this is not going to stop me from making more money. And in fact, it's going to help me make even more money. I don't even have to pay these certain amounts of taxes. This whole thing doesn't take anything away from me. But there's people who will either see it's too good to believe, like you said, or they may shoot themselves in the foot because their mindset is that for a long time, the paradigm in our society is work hard, suffer, then die. And maybe you get lucky and you get some retirement and you get to spend like a 1 or 2 years with your family and friends before you collapse because you
worked so hard all your life.
Yourself. Yeah, you destroyed yourself. And but with this proposal, it's a complete paradigm shift in how we think about these things. You know, I know plenty of people that if they had the little bit of that extra money in their pockets, they would make a lot different decisions.
Yeah.
You know, but there's just that fear there. And what would you say to someone who feels like, one, either people are getting money that they don't work for, or two, that people will feel just like it's too good to believe and I'm just going to stick to what I know?
Well, it's actually the whole system is designed that I'm proposing is designed from an observation. It was a question somebody asked me once, years ago. It was like a really good question. And it was like, you look at what technology is supposed to do for our society. It's supposed to make it more efficient. We're supposed to be able to produce goods and services and grow food more efficiently. And if everything is much more efficient, why was it that, say, 70 years ago, one person could work and raise a family and the other didn't, you know, and we were working 40 hours a week back then, and it worked just fine. Like, let's give an example. My father and mother, when they got married out of college, my father got a job as what was called a junior reporter at the newspaper. It was not paying a lot. He was writing the obituaries and things like that. My mother worked for a daycare, and just on those salaries, they were able to save up enough money to buy 1 acre of land in South Miami and then build a house on it and put a mortgage on it. And they were able to do that within a few years of getting married. Now, that doesn't happen today. It can't happen. And in a couple of years, when my brother was born, my mom stopped working. She never worked the rest of her life, and it worked fine. That doesn't happen today. And so we know we have all this technology, and yet people are having to work harder. Why? What's wrong? And what is wrong? And I can speak for it because I come from the field. It's the financial community. It's the financial monetary economy. It's so huge. And again, as I say, it represents 99% of all the payments out there. Have nothing to do with buying and selling goods or supply chain or anything like that. It's this gigantic efficiency game that has sucked most of the money out of the economy and that's where the jobs went. So many jobs went there, and so much of the wealth goes there that the remainder of the population is actually producing things. They're producing things for the benefit of that wealth. They're servicing wealth. And so it's not really a fair system. And here's the amazing part. Just 0.2% tax on that is what brings in the $24,000 a year in basic income. Well, that begs another question. If we were to tax maybe 0.3 or 0.4, and we were to go out with, say, $40,000 in basic income, I mean, you really could shift the landscape. In a couple raising kids, one person would only have to work again. You know? And so what you're really doing is just allowing some of the efficiency that does exist within the technological production engine we've created. And you're allowing that to actually benefit the population as a whole rather than a smaller group of people. That's what's happening.
Now, I can think of another thing too. Would you think, given this, that a couple, they both get $24,000 a year. So that's $48,000, which is way more than some people make.
Right.
Say what?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's way more than a lot of people make now. So some people will say, well, then people will just sit home, do nothing, have kids, and that'll be the end of it. And the world will be overpopulated. What would you say to that?
Well, okay. So I have a couple of things to say to that. First of all, you do need people working still. So basic income is only a part of the proposal. What you have to do is marry the $24,000 a year basic income with an earned income credit schedule that's very healthy. So under the Financial Freedom Act, somebody earns between $0 and $10,000, they get a 50% earned income credit. So there's this huge incentive. Go out and you get your job at McDonald's and make 10 grand, you get out of the 5, and now you add 15 to 24. Yeah, people are going to still work. And there's a balancing act. What you may find if you begin to implement this is maybe you can only give 18,000 of basic income and a healthier earned income credit. There's a balancing act. A certain amount of people. Okay. But what also happens is that when you've got that basic income and people are spending more money like that, then businesses have a lot more money to spend on salaries and jobs. And as you have a booming economy, there's going to be $17, $20 an hour jobs start popping up right and left because there's that much wealth flowing through the economy.
There'll be more incentive.
Yeah, the balance between earned income credit, the amount of basic income, all of that was just calculated, those actual figures, sort of like a hard, cold robot with no heart that was saying what optimize the economy, what provides the right amount of consumer spending, and what does that do for jobs. And in the end, that calculation that's just for optimization of cash flow turns out to be a very humane, warm-hearted proposal, you know.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
you really, it's really a balancing act. And when you start to tweak things right, things become supercharged, and we begin to be able to realize the benefit of technology.
Right. So here's another thing. There's a lot of people that'll throw out words like socialism and things like that without any real education of what that word means or what the ideas behind it, especially when you're talking about social democracy or something like that. They'll just like shut down like, oh, no, this is communism. They'll just start throwing out words like that.
Yeah.
So one of the things, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw out in Matthew 20 in the Bible, there's a parable called the workers in the vineyard. And in that story, there's these workers that come at different times of the day. And even though they show up at different times of the day, they expect that they're going to get paid. The owner says, hey, will you work for this much for me? That person says yes. They ask another person a couple hours later. They say yes. That's a couple other people. They say yes. So at the end of the day, the owner pays the last person that started first and gives them the agreed upon amount. But then all the people who are working there longer, they go, well, shoot, if he got that much, if she got that much, then I'm assuming I'm going to get even more. But then as he goes down the line, he gives everybody the same thing. And then the people who were working more hours, they get upset. And they go, well, that's not fair. How come this person got this amount when I worked way longer and I got the same amount? And then the owner ends up saying, well, isn't it my money? I can do what I want to do. Right. You know, who are you to tell me I'm doing something good? I'm helping out all these people who need work. Like right. I have work to be done. They agreed I'm doing something good. Why are you going to sit there and call it evil just because you think you should have more for whatever reason? Mm-hmm. So that's a part of the human tendency. And I think that the spiritual import of that is that there's like a basic human value for what they put out or what we do, what we create in the world. And I think that this scripture kind of addresses that. They made a certain agreement. They put out some labor. There was a certain amount of demand for their labor that the owner had. And so he was like, I'm going to give you this much because I need you to work. I'm incentivizing you, and I'm not worried about how many hours you worked or didn't work. And then so I wonder if people encounter that, will they still grab onto this idea that people getting something for what they contribute? Because I think that this engine that is the economy, it moves because of the people that participate in it.
That's right.
So if they're keeping the engine going, then they should get something that comes back to them for keeping this engine going.
Right.
And there's got to be some basic return on that.
Right. So under this system, people are still earning their income. I think that you might have people making the argument someone's getting something they don't deserve if they weren't getting basic income. But under this proposal, even if you're making $100 million a year, you still get your $24,000 a year in basic income. And by the way, if you actually if you said, well, that's not fair from the other side, and you go and pull it away from those people, it doesn't add that much more basic income to the others. So just do flat across 24,000 basic income. No one has anything to complain about, and then area with some really good earned income credits. And then you have the effect of a robust economy that only makes it get better and better. You're kind of off to the races. It's quite possible that as that economy grows, you really could increase basic income from 24 to 30,000 for everyone. You'll find out when you put this system in place, you'll find out how efficient our economy can really be. Right now, the way we do our taxes and the way we've designed the system, it forces a win-lose attitude out there. and people think it's
Yeah.
a zero-sum game. And they think in
Right.
order for somebody else to have more, I have to have less. And that's not at all true. That's not the way the
Right.
economy works. The economy is predicated upon we all do better when we're working together.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if there are plenty of people who argue it's a zero-sum game, and it's not, because let's say you go back to the days before we had houses, we're all living in caves, you know.
Right.
Construction technology, the ability to build a house, we all benefited out of it. It's not like some people live in houses today and other people live in less than caves. And if it was a zero-sum game, it would be that way, right? It's
Right.
um,
Yeah.
technology allows all of us to live better, and that's what we're trying to capitalize on.
Are you familiar with Buckminster Fuller at all?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So Buckminster Fuller basically said that we basically are at a level where every person could thrive. Like, we have the things for everyone to thrive. It's just that
That's right.
we don't choose it. We just don't choose it. And that there is a solution for every problem that comes up. There is a solution. It's just whether or not we're willing to direct our attention towards what it would take to solve the problem without being concerned about who benefits and who doesn't, and trying to be the judges of that. And I think I'm very excited about. I'm excited as if it's been signed and it's going to happen tomorrow. But I'm mostly excited that someone would put in the energy and the thought to be able to create an idea like this. One of the things that I'm doing right now, as we're dealing with the issue of COVID-19, is that I'm trying to foster ideas that can help us see this moment in history as a positive evolutionary moment in history, so that whatever comes out of this, that whatever ideas that emerge from this, that all of humanity will benefit from it. Because what this virus is showing us is that we are connected, we are one, whether we want to believe we are or not. That the viruses don't discriminate, and it doesn't say, well, I'm not going to pick you. I don't mess with rich people, or I only mess with poor people, or whatever. It's showing us that we are interconnected. We are one. The poorest person in the world could infect the richest person can affect the poorest person, and all of us have an expiration date. And what we do in this moment is what really, I think, impacts the value of our life. And we have this opportunity to be able to see things that are of value, share things that are of value, reach within ourselves to find the inherent value in each and every one of us, and use this time that we've been impressed upon us to do something positive. And so when I started doing these little videos, hey, I've always thought about doing something since I met Scott. I've wanted to talk to him, and you're the first person I've ever interviewed on my little platform. I normally just do my own little random thoughts, but I have a lot of talented people in my life, and I want to be able to invite them into this space and share it with other people, because people don't know about this idea. They heard about Andrew Yang, and some people had some of the opposition that you and I have talked about today. And then now, in this situation, people are talking to Andrew Yang about how do we do something like UBI in the short term because of this this crisis. Right. But what a lot of us, I think, sadly, I think that there are a large contingent of humanity who they don't see their inherent worth, and there's nothing that nothing in our system, our society, that tells people that they have value. Because they exist, because God chose to bring them into this moment in time in history, and so that there is something vital about them, whoever they are, and there's nothing in place that tells them that. And when we have this transactional society where it's like, what are you going to do for me before I do something for you, we miss that. And I think the blessing of what you're proposing is that it's offering people this realization that your presence actually matters. You're participating in something that we all participate in, and it's not like we have like as I breathe, I suck up some of the oxygen that other people can't breathe.
Right.
It's like we're all contributing to it. we're all contributing, and then our plants and our other things contribute, and it's like this system, you know, and we all contribute to it. And this is just an economic, metaphorically speaking, it mirrors what already is in place naturally. They were all participating, we're all giving and receiving. And if our economic model matches that, I think it gives people a lot more liberty to discover who they are, and even their spiritual gifts, their emotional gifts, all the other different ways that we can contribute. So, do you have any other thoughts to that? One more thought, and then I'll let you go, because I don't know how many people have long enough spans. Attention spans. I do. I can listen to this all day. I'm excited.
Yeah, you and I could talk all day, I know.
Yeah.
Attention spans are limited out there. I'm hoping this COVID-19 crisis helps to precipitate deeper thinking about alternatives out there. It's shown how ill prepared we are. And if you look at the old paradigm, let's say they send $1,000 check to every man, woman, and child in the U.S. Under the current system, they're going to have to borrow $300 billion to do it. Whoa, you know, that's kind of hard. That's hardcore, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see where a conservative rightly would go, well, we can't afford to do that. And
right.
But if you move to a payments tax, you move to this other system, suddenly it's just easily affordable and very positive. So I think big solutions come in the form of paradigm shifts. And it's not the way you were thinking about it, you know, but once the paradigm shift occurs and you're looking at it in a new light, it's actually easy. The solution is actually very easy, and it's appealing to everybody. That's I think the key. And paradigm shifts, they're almost miraculous in nature.
Yeah.
I think that if you went to people a few hundred years ago and talked about flying through the air like we do and all the things we do and communicating instantly and you and I projecting our images all around the world, well, they view that miraculously. That's like, no, that's impossible. But that is the miraculous nature of our life on this planet when we are really thinking the right way and our hearts are open to whole new ideas. That's the beautiful part about life.
That is beautiful. So I'm going to share one more thing with people, and if you have some thoughts on it, I'd definitely be interested in hearing it. So I read this book. I do not recall the author's name right now, but the book was called Kingonomics, and it was basically the economics of Martin Luther King Jr. And what the person was lifting up was there are multiple types of economy. There's not just this economy that's based off of dollars and cents, but there's an economy. I can't remember all the different economies, but I'll say there's a relational economy. There's ways that we interact with one another, and there's some value that happens, some exchange of value that happens when we engage one another deeply and intentionally. There's artistic value. You take something and you make something out of it, and it becomes something beautiful. And there's this somewhat of an economic type of experience that happens there. And essentially, there's lots of different exchanges that we have in society, time, for example. But what ends up happening is that we in our society have been programmed that everything has to have like a dollar value. And if we can't understand the dollar value and we trap ourselves in that dollar economic paradigm, then we'll say, well, that's not worth this amount of my time because of my monetary reasons and things like that. So we miss out on all these different economies that exist simultaneously. Or if someone chooses to invest more in that relational economy, then that may mean that they can't participate fully in the financial economy because maybe they choose to spend time with their wife and husband or kids or grandmother or whoever it is. Or if someone wants to do something philanthropic and they say, well, I want to spend my time serving the homeless community because I see a need there and things that could be done and solutions, then they choose that. Now they can't participate in the financial economy to that level. But with what you're offering, I think it not only lifts up the financial economy, but it also allows all these other economies that are happening at the same time to have investments put into those places as well. The spiritual economy, which I don't think that's one of the ones that the person said, but I'm saying it because there's some rich depth in every human being. In the course of my life, I've had the opportunity to engage with people with all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, all different mentalities. And I was raised in a certain context where I had some barriers to engaging with people that were a different mindset than myself. But it wasn't natural to me. And I had a few experiences in my life that broke me out of that. And they were all based on, my shifts were all based on the golden rule of loving my neighbor as myself. And I just was like, man, would I want someone to, think this way toward me if I were in their shoes based on if they were raised a certain way, raised to believe certain things, would I want them to then come to me and say, oh, you should think like this? And I was like, I wouldn't. So I decided if I wanted to be heard, I should first hear, and I started listening to people and hearing about the things that they were going through and seeing how much we had in common. And it expanded my heart and my mind and brought me and my experience closer to God. Like every day, every time I meet a person that's different than me and I can like hear something that I'm listening for God in that from my own personal paradigm. And so like, I believe that there's a spiritual way of having this whole financial paradigm shift. And I feel like what you're offering is that. I think that it is definitely in line with that. And so I just want to say thank you for not only looking at it from a financial perspective, but also creating an idea that allows all these other economies to be able to flourish as well. Because I know there's a lot of people that want to spend time with their children. I'm one of them. People that want to do for their parents. I'm also one of them. I mean, a lot of things that we don't participate in because we're caught up in the financial, just limited to that. So I know I said a lot, but I'm excited. So, this I feel like this is gonna happen. I'm sure that this is gonna happen. I hope that it's in our time where we can see it and benefit from it and just get excited about the things we create, and also seeing the ripple effects across the world. Because if I had an extra $24,000, that I already know how to live without that extra $24,000. But there's a lot of philanthropic things that I want to do that I give $5 here or $10 there. I would give $100 there, $1,000 there, because I want to see these things grow in society. So, I mean, speaking just for myself. So there's this extra expanded philanthropic thing that could ripple out across the planet, not just America. So
well, I think people would be more likely to do a startup. They've got a little bit of a base. They're going to go ahead and take a risk. There's a lot, what do they call it? Emergent behavior. The emergent behavior that comes out of this, I think, is going to surprise everyone. Yeah.
Well, man, Scott, thanks. I definitely appreciate you working through our little technological bumps to make this happen. And I hope that some people will see this. I'm going to post this, as I said, on my different platforms that I participate in. I'm also I have a blog, theruthlesschurch.com. I'm going to post it up there as well, with some links to your website and some other videos that kind of give a little bit of description of what we talked about today. And hopefully people will see this and share this and get the word out and get people thinking, and hopefully it'll who knows. And I just want to say to people, if you do watch this, just by listening, you're making an impact, and you can do even more by sharing it, and voting and doing all the other civic things that we can do to help us create a system that definitely makes room for all. So thanks for everybody for participating, and thank you, Scott, for being up here, man.
Hey, thank you so much for the conversation today. See you around.
Yeah, it's been fun. All right, take care, buddy.
Coffee shop. Okay, well, in a few months.
Once we can go outside, we can get some coffee and get on the video and watch and drink it at the same time. Yeah. All right. Okay, I don't drink coffee anymore, but whatever, a hot drink.
Oh, there you go, hot chocolate. Actually, I don't drink coffee either.
Oh yeah. So chai and hot chocolate, or we can mix them together and get some hot chocolate. All right. All right. See you, man. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.